welcome to today's episode of Dive Into Reiki with Raven Keys. Raven, thank you so much for being here with us.
I am so excited to be here. I do these things a lot, but it's like, I don't know why. I was just so happy that I was going to have this time with you today.
Me too. I've been like bubbly for like 2-3 days. So I'm going to share a little bit of your bio with everyone. So you're the founder of Raven Keys Medical Reiki International. You're also the author of Medical Reiki, a groundbreaking approach to using energy medicine for challenging treatments. You have a couple more books. You are the first Reiki Master to bring Reiki into the operating room with Dr. Mehmet C, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit. And you're right now working with surgeons that include Dr. Sheldon Marc Feldman of Montefiore Medical Center. You have been providing Reiki to patients before, during, and after surgeries for nearly 2 decades. And you've been training teams of Reiki Masters known as certified RKMRI. That was challenging with my accents. Medical Reiki Masters who are bringing medical Reiki into operating rooms and other medical venues, which we're also grateful for. You've also been in the world of professional sports. You introduced Reiki to athletes in the NFL and the NBA, featured in national magazines such as Vogue and W, and you were named Best Reiki Master in New York by New York Magazine, now mixing magazine and medicine. So quite a bio there, but yet I love how approachable you are. So I'm really grateful for that. And I wanted to start, like every interview, what was your first encounter with Reiki practice?
Well, that is so fun. I love that question because I feel like those of us who are practicing Reiki right now, we weren't exactly looking for anything, but all of a sudden, like Reiki showed up. So I was an actor for like, that's how I made my living basically for a lot of years. And then I had a private yoga teacher, and she came to this very room where we are right now, and she had just studied Reiki. So my late husband was with me in this class. And so she said to me, Raven, lie down. You look tired to me. I'm going to do Reiki for you. And I didn't even know, I had no idea what she was going to do because I never heard of it before. And I'll just guide Michael in his poses. So the fact of the matter is she wasn't paying a bit of attention to me, not one bit. She was like, move a little this way, move a little, but she had her hands on the bottoms of my feet. And I was like blissing out. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, but I have to learn about this. And I want to be able to do this for other people like she's doing it for me. So Reiki showed up. And then I was trying to study it with her teacher, who was the wife of a diplomat. So her whole thing was in a big mansion, like on the east side of Manhattan. Yeah. But I could never get with her. It was just like not the right time. And then I got a thing in the mail from a Reiki master named Lori Grant. I don't know how she got my address. It was way before. It was 1995 in the early
Almost no emails then. Yeah.
There was no email, there was nothing. So I got this, I'm like, how did I get this? And I thought, oh wow, she's coming to New York, this sounds like a good idea. But then I thought, no, I just don't think it's really the right thing right now. But then my meditation teacher was gonna take the training with her, so I said, okay, I'll do it. So I took all my training with her, became a Reiki master, and that was November of 1995. And then as things turned out, she didn't teach again for like 6 years because she became pregnant, and she was, going through all that and becoming a new mother and everything. And so, but by the time she came back to teach again here in New York, it was 2001. And by then I'd been in operating rooms and, had all this stuff happen. So if, it's like, it's kind of like the yellow brick road forms before your feet. You have no idea what's going to happen when Reiki touches you. That's meant to be. And I truly believe that all of us got born right now to serve the light in this time of so much darkness in the world. And that, and we don't know when the clock is going to go off, you know, or the chime inside is going to go, ding, 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 ding. It's time. And even if you receive a Reiki session and you think, oh, that's cool. Well, you know, if you're meant to do it, years could go by, but when the time comes, the bell goes off and your life activates. And that's how it is.
Yeah, that's a little like it happened to me. It kept coming back to me, and I'm like, nah. And then it kept coming back and back until I actually embrace fully the practice, right?
Yeah.
When it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But one thing I love about you is like you almost were so open to it that everything seemed to happen, as you said, like it will look for you, like all these invitations, like your invitation with Dr. Mehmet Oz. Like you didn't even look for anything, it just unfolded by itself, right?
Yes, it did. And that was that is really actually something that we all need to know, all of us together that do this work. You know, if something shows up, you have to say yes. You can't like hide from it. Like if something presents itself to you, it's meant to be, and you're the only one that can do it. You know, it's like this is you, especially now. I mean, Reiki, yes, it's spreading around the world, but we are holding a certain kind of energy that that's unique. And I don't say that in an egotistical way, because there is no room for ego in Reiki. There just isn't. It's so not cool. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about any one person or any kind of training. It's about it. It is trying to happen to bring an enlightenment to the earth, an evolution. You know, evolution is really a better word, I think, because enlightenment like scares people and it seems so, you know, so religious. And this is not a religion. It is a practice of being empty and having just surrender. It's a practice about surrender to the beauty and the love that is the universe that made everything. And what are we doing? That's what we're doing. We are open to channel through us, if you even want to use that word, the power of the universe. And how cool is that? I mean, what else do we want to do?
I think being empty can be a little bit scary. You know, I think that is part of it. It's like we attach to not being empty. And Reiki is really about learning to allow that emptiness to take over.
Yes, it is. If, you know, I have a very old piece of information that was from Mikao Usui, long ago, like some of his original teachings, to my knowledge. That's what I was told. And it's Japanese translated into English. He says, you know, that you don't need to know anything about medicine or anatomy to be a wonderful Reiki master. You don't need to know those things to practice Reiki. And I've thought about that a lot. It's like, if I will say to people, because if they're going through something that's medical, they feel like nobody's listening to them. And they say that to me, nobody listens to me. The doctor's not listening. The people aren't listening. I'm trying. And then they give up. You know, they're not going to even try to say what's going on. So because I know that, I'll say, okay, so what would you like to see happen? Keeping in mind, of course, that Reiki is a place in between time and space where all things are possible. You know, what needs to happen. I'll just ask them, and maybe I remember and maybe I don't, you know what I mean? Because I'm thinking about what's coming in and who's coming and what's going to happen. And then it's just like the one thing that I do now, I will say, I ask to be the hollow bone, to just give myself a chance. I asked to be the hollow bone. I asked to be the hollow bone, so that I'm not thinking about anything. And then, but lately, in one of the medical Reiki trainings in Boise, Idaho, at the end of 2019, so it was right before COVID, I was doing like this ceremony with the people who had come for the training, and all of a sudden it was like the angels, because I was like told I had to really, really find out about E equals MC squared. It almost drove me crazy till I got to the answer. But nevertheless, in this meditation, the angels came through, and Gabriel said, "That's not the only formula. Heal is a formula. H equals energy of absolute light. H equals energy of absolute light." And then the angels started singing it. H equals energy of absolute light. Like in the meditation, that's what was going on for me. I don't know what was happening with everybody else, but that's what was going on for me. And so now that's what I do. I will more than likely during a session just be saying heal, 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 because at the end of that meditation with the people in Boise, I said that this had happened, and there was a woman there from Mississippi, and she said, there's a video of some people in Japan, and there are all these Reiki masters, and they're standing around an operating table. There's a lady, I think, on the table, and they all have their hands up, and they're saying, heal, heal, heal. Now, I don't know if this is like the real deal or not, but she said, whatever they were doing, they were watching the tumor shrink, 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 shrink until it disappeared. And so, we can't promise those things are going to happen to people, but they might. And in my practice, the very first person I ever went to breast cancer surgery with, she came to me, she had 5 tumors in her breast. And
Wow.
yeah, and it was like a lot. And she didn't want to have a mastectomy. She was pretty young, and so, I just was there, not even knowing about the heel part, but just I asked to be the hollow bone and all that. And then by the time she got the surgery, those tumors they shrunk. And I didn't, it's like, we don't really know what this is going to do. And it really is, I think the only instruction that we could give to a person is just tell them to relax, allow themselves to receive. That's it. Just let yourself receive. Don't worry about anything. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. There's just you receiving. And if it occurs to you, if in your mind, you can think what you would like to see happen, because really that might happen. You know what I mean? Like thoughts become things.
Yeah.
So, and then we're in that place in between time and space. So,
and there are 2 things that I love about you say, because again, I come from more Japanese training, but there is a Buddha of infinite light. So that's what I love. Like, we may come from different ways of experiencing the practice, but the concept of infinite light, of emptiness, are beautiful, right? There is no limit to infinite light. It can do everything. And the other thing I love is that intention that you said also, like all healing is self-healing. So we can only create that space of infinite light where everything is possible, but we're also not in control of it. So I really like that.
Yes, we have to take care of ourselves, especially now. And it's in the training I do with Reiki Masters in the medical training, it's very important that we put some protection around ourselves. That is infinite light, because there's just so much darkness in the world right now. And then when you walk into an operating room, who knows what happened there before you got there, because nobody cleans out the room spiritually. And that's one of the first things that we do, is because there's a lot of other stuff going on. So we clear out the room by calling in the angels and asking for that to happen. But But you know, it's really a powerful thing to bring Reiki into medicine, because just like we weren't looking for anything and it found us, it's the same for the surgeons. You know, they don't know what it is. It's like the patient wants it, whatever. I mean, if they're open-minded enough to say, well, maybe if they think this is going to happen, they help them, it's not going to hurt anybody or whatever they say. And then this person has a credential and they're in, you know, blah, 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 and it says that they're certified to do this. Okay, I surrender. But still, guess what? They are experiencing something they never experienced before, just like us. The first time we ever were touched by Reiki, the same thing. And they never are going to be the same again. So it makes total sense to me that the angels asked me to do this, because I know, I very humbly say that I'm the only person on this planet that went into surgery time after time after time after time for all these different things. And then I have this breast surgeon who's, you know, with breast cancer, and sending his patients to me right from this office. Go to Raven, you know, if they were open to calming. And a lot of times I just came to me, they were just following the doctor's orders. They had no idea what it was.
Wow.
And it was just another word in a bunch of other words that they don't even understand, that they were just told, and they were in a state. You know what I mean? It's like when you're in a situation like that, you don't even hear what people are saying to you.
No, but I think I work with people with cancer, living with cancer before the pandemic. And for me, like the effect of Reiki in terms of like side effects and energy levels, and also feeling a touch that is not prodding or poking or cutting, you know,
Yes.
like having that care, especially in a city like New York, where sometimes people are not touched very much. I
Right.
think for me, it's such a beautiful process. And I was wondering, as you talk about these doctors, what is their reaction when you are there? Do they shift? Do they understand, like, hey, this is actually quite good in terms of recovery? Or are they still a little bit skeptic after they have those experiences?
Well, the thing is, when during the surgery, they're very busy. So it's a very busy thing. It's like everybody's doing the best job they can do to get this done as quickly as possible so the patient can get out of anesthesia. And so they're busy. But the thing that they do, I mean, whether they're aware of it or not, the Reiki is affecting them. It's in the room. It's, you know, it's in the room. It's running. Their hands are touching the patient, and Reiki is inside the patient. It's inescapable, in other words. Well, they don't really have time for the most part to pay attention. There are other people in the room that are paying attention. They're like, I've had people come up to me at the end that were like handing the doctor, you know, tools, the things to cut, the blah, blah,
Yeah.
all the different things. And they'll be like, what were you doing? Oh my God, what was that you did? And it's almost like you're going to cry, you know, in certain times. And so they feel it. But when the doctors, they notice it, the after effects, how they don't have to stay in the hospital, they don't need to take pain medication, they're taking an aspirin like a couple days after a bilateral mastectomy. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then they say, this is something. And recently I had a situation in which I had to really fight for a client to have medical Reiki in pre and post op. And it wasn't that long ago. It was just in July that this happened. And I fought really hard for one of my medical Reiki masters here in New York to go with this young man who was getting spine surgery. And because I remonstrated so much, first of all, when I went to the consult with the surgeon to start with, and so the surgeon, you could do this, you could do that, but then you could get surgery, and then all the pain will be gone, and you'll walk out of the hospital, and blah blah blah, whatever. So I brought my medical Reiki book with me. And I said, you know, doctor, he really wants medical Reiki during surgery. And here's the book. And he actually reached out his hands and took the book like this between his hands. And he went, this is not alternative medicine. This is medicine. Let's see what we can do. I don't know why. I don't know if he ever had Reiki. I don't know anything, but he said, let's see what we can do. If maybe we can get, he said, I doubt that it can be in the operating room, but maybe in pre and post-op. So as it turned out, you know, COVID was, restrictions were still in that hospital. And they broke their COVID rules because I demonstrated in such an emotional way that they allowed it to be in pre and post-op. And so I was there with the Reiki master that I sent. So we were doing Reiki and pre-op, and then okay, so this patient could not walk. The pain was so bad. And so was put on the operating table. And I knew, like, there was no way that one of us was going to fit in the operating room. There were 3 anesthesia doctors. And that's just, the patient was surrounded by people that were going to the OR. And it's really crowded in there anyway. So anyway, when we went to post-op, and in this situation, we were waiting. And then the lead surgeon came in and got both of us, the medical Reiki master and myself, by the hand and took us into post-op. So there we are. And we're, you know, doing Reiki, and the gal who is the nurse, you know, in post-op, they have 1 or 2 patients at the most. She just had him at the moment. And she goes, you know, she's like outside the door, but this glass that she can see through to us, and the door was open. And so she's looking at all these monitors, and she goes, you know what? I don't know what you're doing, but I really think that all the patients should have this, because she could see it on the monitors. And that's what happens. They see it on the monitors and they say, just keep doing it. I mean, we've been told that in post-op more than once. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. And for those people who are not that familiar, they may be interested in doing medical Reiki. What is the difference between a regular training for Reiki Master and your medical Reiki training? So what will you offer them? Because some people think they're going to diagnose and almost like do psychic surgeries, but what is really medical Reiki?
It's doing it in medicine, in operating rooms. And I don't train anybody in Reiki that's going to be a medical Reiki master. Like I do train people to be Reiki masters, and I love to teach Reiki. I really do, but I hardly ever get to do it anymore because this has become a full-time mission. And, you know, I have trained people from all over the world now. And because of COVID, I've been able to, like, it had to be switched to Zoom. And so because I'm not teaching anybody, and they're already Reiki masters, they're already attuned to be a Reiki master, all that stuff, it's like, so what am I doing? I'm teaching them what might happen, what you better watch out for, who you need to get on with, what to say, what to do, what happens. You know, it's really, really important to know what the heck might happen, because you don't want to faint. And if you know in advance that X, Y, and Z is going to happen, you're less likely to faint. And and if you talk to anybody who is in any way, shape, or form associated with a teaching hospital, they all say the medical students come in, they faint. It's not unusual. Well, if I see somebody's going to faint, like say we have operating room nurses who are now medical Reiki masters, if they see somebody, if they have the chance, they'll tell them, go sit up against the wall. But that doesn't mean that they're going to have the chance. It could happen like that. Yeah. And you know, I've seen some really wicked things, and I know now that I'm not going to faint because of the wickedness of what I've seen. And there was one thing, it was like, I am not, and I didn't faint. And it's like, why? Because part of the training is everybody in the very first part of the medical Reiki training meets a spiritual assistant that I call their angel. And it's just easy to use that word, angel. Some of them do see angels. Some of them have other things that come to them, but it's a medical assistant, because there are times when you just don't, it's like overwhelmed. And it's like, I've had really amazing things happen.
I was reading your book and I'm like, I would have fainted here. I would have fainted this double lung like transplant. I'm like, yeah, I would have gone to the floor, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
that was really something.
but
Really.
I'm really grateful you clarified. It's really about how to handle and knowing what will happen versus us doing almost like the doctor role, which sometimes the community, we're huge community levels of training really change, but it's really good to be clear about that, right? Like your practice, your Reiki practice is the same. It's just learning how to handle that environment and what could happen, and also how to communicate in this world that is different, you know, that our regular outside world of the hospital.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's really different. And then what are we doing? It's a spiritual practice, really. So we're bringing the other thing. The really brilliant surgeons know that there's the other thing. They don't know what it is. It's Reiki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the spiritual energy. Everybody has it inside them. It's like the energy of life itself, and it gets weak, and that's why people get sick. And you know, it's like trauma, this, that, the other. Like Reiki addresses everything across the board. It's like there's nothing it can't fix or heal or do. But we can't even say to anybody, I'm going to heal you, because that to me is a bad thing to say, because it's just not cool, because you don't know somebody's destiny and what their karma is and why they're here. And you know, all these different concepts of Reiki have been presented to me in my actual life. And knowing about the destiny thing is really important. And, you know, like my husband was another victim of 9/11, even though he didn't die on September 11th, it was like years in the making of the trauma and what was happening to him. And you know that he was an empathic musician, so that made him brilliant. Like he could really make you laugh and cry in the same guitar solo. But the thing is, spirits kept coming to him and asking for help, and he didn't know how to handle it. And then people started dying all around us. His father, his mother, his stepfather, his, you know, his godmother, everybody was dying. And then our dog, and it was just one thing after another, and it just wore on him, and I couldn't do anything. Here I am doing all this stuff, and I can't do anything. And so really Medical Reiki started because of him, because I was on the tour in England in Glastonbury, and I was crying because, you know, I couldn't do anything. And it's like, here I am doing all this stuff in operating rooms for people and everything, but I can't help him. Destiny. So, you know, Gabriel came and comforted me, and I was, you know, as I cried, when I stopped crying, Gabriel said to me, his destiny is that he has to go through this. We've got this, meaning the angels. He is one of us, is what he told me. He's got to go. He came to the earth to go through this, to have this experience so that he could help others. Once he comes back to the light, he's going to help humans with this knowledge that he's gaining, that he could only gain by being a human being and going through all this. And so, you know, destiny. So somebody could die on the operating table. Guess what? That doesn't mean you failed. The doctors feel like they failed. They take it really hard. And guess what? If one of us is there, we saw what was going to happen. Like we were told in advance, and we were able to usher them into the light and say to the doctors, if they will allow us to, because, you know, they're in their own world in a way. And it just, like, a lot of things are about relationships. Like, how much can you really make a relationship with a doctor if you never saw him before and you're just in their operating room?
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, it's
you're
like,
also masked and covered like in all these
yeah.
things, so you're safe. So it's not like you can even like have a face almost. But I think you said something very beautiful, and I think it applies both to medical Reiki and regular Reiki. We have to respect people's destinies and people's process and journeys. So we can create this infinite light, but we cannot try to manipulate the outcome. We need to be respectful. And for me, respectful is a way of loving the other person. Like, I love you so much that I respect your journey and your process and your decision, right? So it's a way of loving we're not used to, but it also relates to what you said. There is no ego, no place for ego in Reiki.
No,
But that's a hard one to learn, though.
it is hard. And you're absolutely right. Like you have to respect what the person's soul has chosen to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a client and she is somebody that I met at Equinox. We used to be at Equinox at the same time. And so she's, you know, comes to Reiki, get Reiki from me now. But she gave me these guidelines that she teaches. She is like a coach for corporations, you know, people who are in business. And it's like, show up. Okay. If somebody says to you, this is what I need, you have to say yes, even if it's the scariest thing in the world, because that's what I did. Are you kidding me? Go to open heart surgery with a
Mehmet also with a famous surgeon, not even like someone who will forget you. Yeah, someone that has access to media and everything. Yeah.
and then but it's like, it was like, what, you know, I just couldn't even imagine it. So you show up, even if you think you can't do it, you pay attention and you tell the truth. You can never tell anybody anything like you're going to heal them, it's going to go this way, it's going to go that way. You cannot. Tell the truth, and tell the truth to everybody around you. If you know the answer, you know the answer. If you don't know the answer, say, I don't know the answer. You know, people are always asking me, what are you doing? I'm like, there are stories about that, what happens in those moments. But anyway, show up, pay attention, tell the truth, do your best. You know what? This person came to you because it was a contract and only you can help them. I can't help them. Only you can help them, whoever you may be. They came to you for a reason. So do your best, and your best is good enough for this person at this moment in their evolution as a soul in the universe. You know, that's it. And so you have to have trust in that. And then release attachment to outcome. You cannot have attachment to what's going to happen. It's not up to us. We are I'm in the midst of organizing all these certified medical Reiki masters that are now going to be working in research. The medical Reiki is being researched now. The IRB came through the hospital. It was supposed to happen before COVID, and now it's after. It just happened. And so now I'm organizing all these medical Reiki masters. One is all the way in Ireland. She will come to do a surgery. I have Florida, North Carolina, New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, all these medical Reiki masters. And as you know, the way this it said, I said to them, listen, you are the delivery system of miracles. That's how you have to think of yourself. I'm delivering miracles, and it's not about you. You're the delivery system. And I will say to surgeons, I'm just like an empty hypodermic needle. That's what I am. I'm the delivery system. I'm the needle. And then that comes through, and that's the way it goes. I'm nothing. It has nothing to do with me. I just show up, and the rest happens on its own.
I appreciate so much what you said. I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful reminder for all of us. And I love the image of the syringe, right? We're empty and we're delivering. And I think like every time we go, like we worry or we fret or we try, we need to remember we're a syringe, or the sun, or whatever image, right? Something you just shine the light, that infinite light. I love that. Tell me a little bit more about the research. I know it's related to breast cancer. Could you tell us a little bit about that? No. Okay.
It's absolutely top secret. As a matter of fact, my people are going to sign an NDA that they're not going to speak to anybody about it. Nobody It doesn't matter who is asking them a question. They're to say nothing, and they're not even supposed to speak to each other, because it's all about bias. And if
Oh,
this
true.
is a big deal to get peer reviewed in a situation like this. It's got to be, every I has to be dotted, every T has to be crossed, it has to be perfect. I can't even do it. They won't allow me because I started it. And I have the company.
But I love the fact that it's happening. And I know you had a website asking for donation. I don't know if that is still active.
Yeah.
So I'll include the link in the notes, and just so people know they can actually support a really, really serious research about Reiki and, medical Reiki in a way, so that people can support it, because I think we need more studies and more studies like this one that is really, like, as you say, very academic, very dotting the I's or whatever it's called in English. Well, right now I cannot remember, right?
Yes. And yes. And so because I started the company and all these people were trained by me and whatever, I'm not allowed to do it. So I can't be one of the people that goes into the surgery, to help in this study. All I can do is organize everything. And what's really amazing is that the doctors that are going to do this, like there are 4 surgeons, and then there are a whole team of other individuals that have to do all this stuff. I don't even know what they're going to, it's so technical and so far beyond anything that we need to know about. You know what I mean? It's like just chatter. You take care of it. I trust you. These are some of the top researchers in the world that are working on this. I bow to their brilliance. And meanwhile, I'm just like, with the people who are going to do this and getting all this stuff together and all their bios and all their contact information and all this and all that. And it's like a lot. It's really a lot. And then, but it's all good. This not-for-profit that Medical Reiki Works was started by Dr. Feldman and myself when I came to his office, because I left out the part where I was on the tour. As soon as Gabriel was done comforting me, he said, well, you can't do anything about this, but this is something that you can do that will help you in your grief. And also, we need you to do this. We want you to train as many Reiki masters as possible in everything you know about going into surgery. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. I really didn't know. And it was like, all right, I will do my best, because by this point in my career or my life, I knew to listen to the angels. So, I just put it out there to my Reiki Masters students that I was going to do this. And then before I knew it, people were finding out about it, and they were coming to New York from Canada and this and that to do this work. And so, one of the first people that ever came is going to be in the study. It's just so exciting, but I'm not going to say.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So then, so all this is going on. And now I have a manual, and then I create a certificate. So I thought, you know what? I have to tell Dr. Feldman about this. I don't want to do anything that's really not kosher, so to speak, or, it's incorrect. So I made an appointment to see him in his office. I hardly ever even saw him except in pre-op or in the operating room. And it's really funny. I can say this to you because he has said it on camera himself. Usually a surgeon will say to the anesthesia doctor, anesthesia provider, how's our patient doing? And when I'm in the operating room, I'll say, Raven, how's our patient doing?
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
He wants to know, how are they really doing? It's like, not about whatever.
But
Sometimes,
for me, again, on my very limited experience with people living with cancer and seeing how much it helped with side effects, I imagine having the support of a Reiki practice in an operation will be so soothing and so amazing, right? And again, we cannot attach to the outcome, but it's the support that hopefully we'll see more and more. And hopefully your study, when, will have that. So we're very grateful as a community, and again, I think sometimes we think when we train Reiki, the Reiki training is very short, So when we want to do this kind of work, we need to actually go with people who have the experience and can help us, because I think also one thing is we have to show up and trust, but we also sometimes need the support of people who've been opening the way like you have,
Yeah.
and
Getting back to the story. So I went to Dr. Feldman and I saw him in his office, and I showed him everything I had and was doing. And he said, this is amazing. Now you have to start a company, because it can't just be about you. It has to have a company behind it. So I never thought about starting a company. It was just like the last thing in the world I ever thought I would do. But then I'm like, oh, I have to start a company. Okay, what am I going to name the company? And I was asking all my friends, what do you think about? They said, you should put your name on it, because you have the book and blah, 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 and people know who you are, and it lends credibility. So I put my name on it, and now I'm really glad I did, because it's like my name, and this is, I'm very, very, this has to go right. You know what I mean? It's like, this has to go right. It can't be messed with. And I have a lot of things in place to really protect its integrity, and also the practitioners, because it is a very big deal to be doing this work. And then nobody's going to know who anybody is unless they ask me, because there are reasons for it. There are reasons that are protecting people's lives, really.
yeah.
And the world that we live in, like with the crazies and it's like, no, nobody's going to be in danger if I can help it. And so it's like that. So I made the company, and then Dr. Feldman said in the same meeting, now it's time for us to do research. So the crazy thing is, it was on winter solstice. I don't even remember what year it was. It's just like so many things have happened. But I started the not-for-profit. We started it, and then there was a big thing that happened with somebody's ego. Just found out, and it was just like, I was terrified. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, ugh. So I closed the, what did I close? I closed the bank account for it. And so then, I mean, I know it was when Dr. Feldman was getting ready to go to Montefiore from Colombia. So I'm in his office, and it's winter solstice. He's got all his stuff packed up. He's moving to Montefiore now by choice. That's what he wanted to do. And there's a whole story about that too. But anyway, so I'm like, well, he's like, well, so what? I'm like, I closed the bank account because such and so said this, da, 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 da. He's like, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to pay for an attorney for us to get this done. So he is then typing, and then I realize he doesn't, never mind. So he's typing to a lawyer that grew up next door to him. He's an entertainment lawyer, and he's related to his next door neighbors were this lawyer, and his brother was a really famous actor. So, and so then I leave, and he's like, I'm going to get this lawyer, and I'm going to pay for the lawyer, and we're going to figure this out. So don't close the company. So I don't close the company, and then I go to Glastonbury, and then I get an email from him, and he's like, Raven, he came up with these two lawyers, and I want you to interview them. He said they're the best. So I'm in Glastonbury. I'm on the phone with lawyers interviewing them, and then of course it's about seeing the lawyers in person. One said, I already talked to you, and the other says, oh yes, come to my office. So I don't even know who this guy is. I'm so busy. I'm in the taxi going to his office. And then I'm like, guess I ought to look up and see who he is. So I look it up, and I'm like, holy mackerel. He's like on Park Avenue, for one thing, in this like top floor in this building. And he's the -- not-for-profit lawyer in the United States of America. And that's who I'm going to see. And so and listen, we are who we are, and we have to be who we are. We cannot make believe that we're other people. It doesn't work. It's never going to work. We are the Reiki people, And we don't have to wear the white coats and we don't have to dress in suits. Look at me. Do you know that Dr. Feldman adores that I work with angels? He thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. So what do? I like the doors open. First of all, it's like going through an airport security to get into this building.
My God.
Yes. And it's pre-COVID. It's like, okay. And then I have to be walked to the elevator and the door opens and there's a guy there to drive me to the floor. The doors open. It's like this whole floor of lawyers. And the one I'm seeing is the head lawyer. And so they're like, oh, Miss Keys, let me take your coat. And would you like coffee? Would you like tea? I'm taken into this conference room there. It's like being, I don't even know what, like way high up, all these windows, there's a telescope there. There are like hawks flying by, it's like unbelievable. And then he comes in, da, 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 da. And so we had a very nice conversation. And I had been told by the angels that Sir Richard Branson was going to donate money to this research project. So he's asking me questions, and he's like, well, do you have any, people that you think are going to donate to this? And I was like, well, the angels told me that Sir Richard Branson will. He goes, do you know Sir Richard? I'm like, no, if he's supposed to, and the angels said he would, if I'm supposed to meet him, I'm going to meet him. That's all. And he was like, he didn't know what to do, actually.
I can imagine that. And lawyer Park Avenue is like, okay.
That's exactly what he said. Okay. Next. And so anyway, we got the lawyer and then it all started. We had our first meeting. I got to meet some of the players that are still in this now. And what was really funny is that at the end, Dr. Feldman said to me, Raven, call in the angels, because he said, you have a direct line to them. And when he was pointing to the ceiling, and there was this microphone that I didn't even notice. It was on a white wire, and the microphone was white. So he asked me to call in the angels. So of course that's what I did. This has been blessed and blessed and blessed. And it's the first research project that will then lead to the next and to the next. And the thing is, the NIH will not give money to Reiki right now. This is the kind of research that will make it possible for us to get the big dollars from the federal government to pay for research. And then that enters into a whole other reality.
And once we have that research, like, again, beyond us being able to work at hospitals, like there is so much miracles and goodness that can happen to people that have to go through, their hospital journey as well. So I'm crossing my fingers. I'm sharing that link. I'm so glad. And also, I love what you said about being unapologetically you, right? Like you were not trying to be who you were not. You are being, again, respectful, but you're being Raven, right? And I think, and you've never confused yourself with a doctor. And I think that is very important. We are still Reiki practitioners. We're not doctors. And we should be who we are. And I love that, because for me, Reiki makes you more of who you are. And if you practice Reiki and then you start hiding yourself, that light is also hidden. So I love that. And I don't know, I'm loving meeting you. So I'm so grateful. I have a couple more questions. One is a little bit, what is your daily practice? What is like Raven's personal practice when it comes to Reiki?
Well, of course I give myself Reiki, you know what I mean? Self-practice. But I also I'm connected to a lot of things. Like I actually am an ordained priestess of the goddess Isis. And so in the morning I do prayers to the Isis. I also am very connected to the elementals that people call fairies, but they're, in nature. So I'm connected to nature. So I say prayers to the fairies as, emissaries of light in nature. And and then I do meditations, and it just depends on what's happening
But you
now.
practice every day, right? So you like you have a strong personal practice. And I think that is also something, because it almost feels like the roads open, as you say, it's the yellow road and you've been following it. And they've been like giving you pushes, but you also have a personal practice. We cannot just sit, not practice, and expect things to happen as well, right?
Yeah, because you know what? We are the delivery system. So we have to be pure, like pure channels to be the delivery system. Like we live in a very toxic world. Let's face it. I mean, and like to be in New York City for me is very difficult. And the longer I am on the planet, the more difficult it seems to get to be here, especially post COVID. Like the city is not what it was before. And
It's insane. And not in a good way. It's yeah, it's very angry, very aggressive, violent, and surreal in ways that it wasn't before.
yeah, and people are desperate and people are committing suicide all over the place. Like I couldn't get to an appointment the other day because for the second time in 5 days, somebody jumped off the subway platform to kill themselves. It's like, and then I heard of another suicide yesterday from a friend, and it's just it's and then if we're empaths, I'm like, protect my home. I don't want all this energy coming in here from outside. Yeah. So we have to really keep up,
I
keep
love that.
up in order to be able to just function. Never mind, and then show up and be empty.
You can like the more you repeat that, the bigger my smile. I really appreciate that you share that. I have one more question, and then I'll be sharing a drawing I did for you, based on your energy. So my last question is also the one I close every interview, and it's basically asking you a little bit about an oops, a teachable lesson. And an oops is like something that you I can consider like a mistake that you learned from, something that you used to do, and then as you evolve in your practice, like that doesn't, or something like, for example, when you were starting with the medical Reiki, perhaps you learned not to do. So something, it can be funny, can be cute. Like in my case, for example, I think, well, I've made so many of them, but like one good one is, I believe the symbols were like distance numbers to go to Europe. That's the way I saw symbols when I got them the first time. Like something that has changed in your perspective of Reiki practice over the years.
I don't know. It's just leaving me. I don't know how to answer the question. I think the thing is that I can't see the forest for the
Yeah.
trees. It's been so fast and furious. I haven't, I, I, I think maybe the most important thing that I've learned is to get out of the way. Just, and stop feeling like it's about me or I can mess it up. You can't mess it up. If you get out of the way and just stop worrying about it. And of course, if somebody, like in the beginning, I guess you could say, I was like, oh my God, it's like having the responsibility to take care of this person who has stage 4 triple negative breast cancer that's incurable. And like, what am I going to do? I'm going to do nothing. Except that's what I learned is like, just forget about it. You can't fix it. All you can do is serve the light. You can't fix it. All you can do is serve the light. And in that case, that was inoperable and all the rest of it, it came to pass. Reiki during all the chemotherapy. And as you probably read in my book, the angels told me that chemotherapy is, a lot of it is based on plant medicine. And what does shamans do that work in plant medicine? They're out on the land asking the plants, are you the one? Are you the one? What do I do? Do I make you a powder? Are you a tea? Whatever. And not every plant is for everybody. And so the angels told me that because of Reiki's power, it makes a translation. And I don't know whether the translation is in the person or in the medicine, but it makes a translation. So this is the right medicine. So, It's a big deal. And it's really about getting out of the way and letting everything take place the way it needs to, because it's divine light. Call it what you want, infinite light, divinity, whatever, the power of the universe, whatever you want to call it. Heal.
I love also that you don't get confused and fighting about wording. I love that about you. So many, like, yeah, whatever you want to call it, it's just is, like, don't overthink it, just go with it. I love that.
Well, we have people that come to us from all over. And from my point of view, Mikhail Usui was a genius when he did not make Reiki into a religion. And it was told to me, I think it was by, I can't remember, Kathy Lipinski maybe, that at that time, or maybe it was Nicholas Pearson, I talked to both of them when I was working on the book, that at that time in Japan, people started religions. And I'm so grateful. It was part of his enlightenment not to do that, because not everybody believes in God. And like these doctors, this is New York. These people are all different kinds. They have all different cultures they come from, all different religions they're practicing. If I told people that it was religious, it would never work. It would train wreck in a minute, because that would just start a big fight.
Yeah.
For me, the only way that I could handle God was told to me by a Buddhist who said, he was very, very advanced in his thinking and his knowledge or whatever. And he said, God, it's like a word that wasn't a word. It was geometric order of divinity. That's what it meant.
Oh.
Geometric order of divinity. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I can accept that. And I think that any doctor could accept that. That's like something that people need to know. This whole business about putting it into a religion or a culture, or it's only can be this or it only can be that. No, it's the universe. It's everything. And we're all part of it. And as Martha Graham wrote in a letter to Agnes DeMille, we're talking about the dance world now at the highest level, just a summation of what she said. There's only one of you through all of time. And if you don't share your gifts with the world will never have them. And that's the real truth, in that we are here on assignment. And there's a story in Buddhism about who was allowed to be born. It wasn't the miracle workers that attended the ceremony in the air that said, send me at this time, called Mapo, when there is so much at risk. And, the Buddha said, this is going to be the worst time that ever existed on the planet. There's going to be so much tragedy and violence and hatred, and so many things are going to be going on, destruction everywhere. And we need to have beings born that are going to, show up.
Light. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the miracle workers were at the ceremony and they raised their hands. I'll go. And he said, I'm sorry, but you're not qualified. You don't have enough courage to face up to what's going to be happening. There are others who are going to come, and they're called the bodhisattvas of the earth, meaning the enlightened souls that have been in training since time out of memory or whatever. That's not ego. It's like, what is your practice? What are you doing? What have you done? How are you doing it? Who's your teacher? What are you, it's like that, whatever. And anyway, I believe that that's who the Reiki practitioners are.
Oh, that's a beautiful take on it. Because at the end, light takes away darkness.
Yes.
So we sit on our lights, darkness cannot get at us in a way, and we can help people find their own light. So that is Very beautiful. Raven, I'm so grateful. So I would love to share a drawing, and it was actually inspired by the story of when you were 3 years old and you felt interconnection with nature. That really, like, when I started reading that, I'm like, I just like it moved my heart. So what I have, hope you can see it, is a woman, and then this is you, a tree, and you're in the heart area that felt that deep interconnection with nature. And then this is just like silver and gold, which in Japan is non-duality, is that unity with everything. And then I always felt you like someone who is very light and can go with the wind. So the hair is blowing, also very nurturing, very feminine in the sense not of gender, but of those qualities of nurturing, supporting, but you're also not controlling. You're allowing the flow to go. So that is the drawing which I will be sending to you. And thank you so much because your energy was lovely as I was drawing it. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, darling, ma'am. Queen of Dive Into Reiki.
Neighbor, perhaps, who knows? Maybe you're just one block away from me and we're doing this via Zoom. You never know. It would be hilarious. But thank you so, so much for sharing your time. I know you're super busy, so there is really big heart. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. We'll meet again when the time is right.